Good evening. Anyway, hey, listen, really had a great time at the Liberty Tour. I'd like to thank everybody here at the Tea Party. Did really an outstanding job. And Becky, where's Becky? Is she still here? Becky in the background. Everybody, Carla, and it's interesting. I run this thing about Casablanca in the second hour of my show. You've seen that, right? Rounding up the usual suspects is the comment that's played. And if you take a look at the third page, it says there's a picture there, and you can clearly see the usual suspects from the Tea Party at the Liberty Tour. It was a great picture. Comes out a little fuzzy there, but I've seen the photo. It's just really a great picture. Anyway, great time. A lot of work was done, but a lot more work needs to be done. Any questions first before I get started? Questions about anything going on? Now's your time to take a shot.
Nothing going on, man.
No, there's nothing going on.
World War III.
Absolutely nothing going on. World War what?
III.
Oh, I thought we were beyond World War III. Larry.
What about the terrorist attack in Beirut, the day before Paris?
I don't really know too much about that other than I heard it was going to happen, and it happened, and then we moved right on to Paris. These are all well-coordinated attacks that are going on right now. And contrary to what we're seeing and hearing from the president, I don't know if you got to see the president today. Anybody get to see that? He was in his homeland of Turkey. Very, very comfortable amongst all of his Muslim friends. And if you don't think, if you still are under the impression he calls himself a Christian, that he is a Christian.
What does he look like? I've never watched him.
At these press conferences?
No, the president.
Oh, yeah. Well, I can tell you, see, my theory about the president is most of the time he's under the influence of marijuana. And I say that because I have great experience in that field. Not that I get stoned every day or anything like that. That's not my experience, but I had 41 years of experience in education and over 26 years dealing with students that are under the influence and doing the DAR recognition thing and everything. And by the way, there was a guy here, Mike Christensen, I think his last name, from Roseville, who knows a very good friend of mine, Jackie Wong, he was from the California Department of Justice, who I met over 20 years ago, who taught me all this drug alcohol recognition stuff. It was really an interesting conversation that he and I had. He goes, "Oh, you know Jackie?" "Yeah, I know Jackie." We started talking about all these influence indicators. And I said, "What do you think of the president?" "He's stoned all the time." That's what he told me. So today, I had two telephone calls, one from Chris Street. Larry, what's up?
I just wanted to know, did Michelle go with him to this Muslim country, or he was her behind and take Reggie Love?
I don't know. I don't know, Larry. I'm not going to get into that.
So I was
Dial
about Michelle, because he
Dial
doesn't take her.
911 on that. Anyway, so Chris Street calls me up, and Chris, I've put this theory on Chris for years. I said, "Chris, the guy comes out, he's under the influence, he's got all the drug alcohol recognition influences of being under the influence of marijuana just about every time. And the stuttering thing every 12 seconds when he doesn't have his teleprompter, that's just patently there with people that are habitual smokers of marijuana. And this has been verified to me by people, my security sources have verified this to me a long time ago. So Chris calls me up, and he's never believed my theory. So he calls me up, I'm working at the computer, and I'm kind of listening to him, and I'm sitting there going, this guy is so stoned, I haven't even looked at him. So Chris calls me up. He goes, Paul. Like Chris. But I get calls from Chris Street sometimes. He's just so excited, it's like a little kid. And I said, "What, Chris? He is so stoned, you can see it." And I said, "Well, I said, Chris, to be honest with you, I have not seen it. But I'm listening to it, and I can tell you, he's really stoned." He really, truly is. And I know we got Robert over here, and I think Robert, you raise your hand, Robert. Robert's with law enforcement. I think he's not disagreeing with what I'm saying about the president, which might lead you to understand how and why he behaves and the decisions that he makes. So then I get another friend of mine, a liberal friend, and he calls me because he hears me talk about this on the radio. And he said, okay, I think you might be right about the president being stoned. I said, well, and by that time I had gone out and looked at him. And I said, yeah, I said, he's having a really, really bad day. You know, people are picking on him, they're calling him liars. Somebody said we're going to hit these bastards and all this other stuff in the news. Did anybody see that? Yeah. See, the media is starting to come unglued. And I don't know if you saw CNN's reaction today after that presentation by the president.
Yeah.
Christian Amanpour was absolutely stunned by the treasonous behavior of the president. She was. And so was Anderson. Is it Anderson Cooper? Yeah. He was too. Oh no, because they're starting to ask some questions. Now, that brings me up to something else. New York Post yesterday. Did you see that? I think his name was Goodwin. He calls for the first time I've seen this, Obama to resign.
Yeah, good idea.
In a major newspaper, calls for the president to resign. You know, some earth-shattering stuff. Now, let me get to some real meat of some of the issues here. Paris. Let me tell you. In July, this is the same story I've been talking about now, but they actually executed the admission. In July, well, first of all, Saturday morning, before the conference, I get a 2-hour call from my security people because they're all over this thing. We're on a conference call with a whole bunch of people, and they're all over the thing about what happened. Other people on the call, plus myself, we all knew this was going to happen. And what happened in Paris will happen in the United States. It's going to. It's a matter of time. Because the president does not want to protect you. Have you gotten that feeling already? He does not want to protect you. Okay, now, what they did was exactly what we said they would do in July, because we ran the story. I reposted the article again on Agenda 21 Radio. We ran the story first July 24th. I went back and looked at my notes. We were informed by July 7th, specifically what the mission would be to come in and attack these soft targets. They would come in, and you may have heard me say this, in teams of 8 suicide bombers. That would be the first thing that they would do. They'd come in with the suicide bombers and all detonate themselves all at one time. There were 7 targets in Paris. They all came in, same time, and a couple of places had the teams of 8. And at the exact same moment, they blew themselves up. And just about 60 seconds later, they opened up with the AK-47s. That is the drill. That is the drill we told everybody about last year. And they followed it to a T. This is the first time they have accomplished that mission. That's what they have planned for this place, America. Target number 1 for America. No. The disinformation has gone out today by ISIS. Target Washington, D.C. No. Please don't buy that bait. Population centers of less than 10,000. Primary targets, high schools at lunch. Remember Columbine. A high school at lunch. There's more information coming out about Columbine. How many of you knew how many bombs were planted in Columbine? How many knew there were bombs planted at Columbine? 1, 2, 3. How many knew that they brought hand grenades with them at Columbine? Did you know there's more than 2 shooters at Columbine? Maybe as many as a dozen. Go to Columbine cause. But there were 99 bombs planted. 99 bombs planted at Columbine High School. Do you get the degree of sophistication here? They were going to blow the hell out of that place. But luckily, nothing worked. They didn't have this, they weren't sophisticated. But they had a team out there of people that were helping them, including adults as old as 35 years old. These are all neo-Nazis, all related to the Muslim Brotherhood. That's how long the game's been going on. Population centers, high schools at lunch. Every high school needs to be armed and prepared. And I'm just calling it out. Next target, any soft target. Any large population, a high school football game, high school basketball game, a mall. Then preschools, daycare centers. And the rapes will begin. Children, babies, infants. Hard for me to say that to everybody. I'm giving you the reality check. That's what's going on right now in other parts of the world where they lay these attacks out. They intend to fully do it here. And our president is doing nothing about it. He has open borders. Immigration, where's Carla back there? What happened today, listen to this. I want you to know how effective you guys have become across the nation. I don't buy what Patrick Wood was saying at the conference about the Tea Party. I don't buy that at all. In a lot of places, you're gaining strength and better influence. But Carlo, you wrote an article, you have an article here in the flyer that started out this morning, and what was it? What would happen here?
That 9 states are not allowing Muslim or Syrians to come in. They're stopping the immigration, illegal immigration that Obama's pushing.
The 9 states.
Now, how many is it now?
It was up to 14 when I left the house. 15. 15?
Okay. So this morning, actually the first time I saw it, much earlier than you did, Carla, there were only 2 that had decided that. 2 states who had decided they're not going to allow the Syrian immigrants in. Because you see, there's no vetting process. They get them off of a plane, almost all of them, 90% are males, between 17 and 45.
10,000 dropped off in New Orleans.
Just Saturday. But don't be fooled by that number. There are hundreds of thousands of them already here. And they've been coming nonstop. We're just now finding out about it. They're not vetted in any way, shape, or form. We don't know what kind of diseases they have, but they're mostly men. So this morning, 2 o'clock, at about 2 o'clock, there were only 2 states that had it. By 6 a.m. there were 4. I didn't even know it went up to 9. And I got here at how many, Larry?
15.
24
now, 25.
Oh.
24 Republican and 1 Democrat.
States?
States.
So there you go.
Was
Say
California
no.
one of those, Bill?
No, I'm sure. This is a big issue, ladies and gentlemen.
Our governor said, come on, we'll take it.
He said he's going to vet.
Jerry Brown.
He said they got that
Jerry.
really well. Bring them all in.
Okay, I'm going to leave that subject because
Really well.
it's getting close to happy hour at Applebee's. Anyway, some other things though, leave you hanging on a couple of them. This is really the good news. If you think we're down and out, go to Syria. Because we're not down and out. We're winning. We are winning. And I hate to take difference with what we heard tonight, but Agenda 2030 is not about how well their plan for one has gone. It's quite the contrary, how badly it's going. And they're forcing their agenda forward because we've called them out. And they can't stand it. And now legal things are starting to happen. And protocols are starting to kick in. Because you do have people that are sick and tired of what they're seeing, and they realize totalitarianism is right around the corner if it's unchecked. And so do the totalitarians. That's why they're trying to force it forward. It's not working. Let's talk about the state of Jefferson. Tomorrow, big announcement. Watch Agenda 21 Radio on YouTube, and we'll have it for you, but I can't tell you. That's it. No, it's kind of evil. It's good evil, though. It's good evil. But you need to watch because I know Terry and Mark and everybody are going down to some other counties right now as we speak. There's a whole cascading effect taking place, and tomorrow's a big day. And I can't tell you what, I know what it is. And it's wonderful to stand here and say, I know what it is, and I'm not going to tell you. Anybody want to guess? Yes, ma'am.
No, I was just wondering what time to watch YouTube.
12 o'clock noontime on YouTube. Now, by the way, YouTube took me down for a day. Again. And by the way, our website, before the Liberty Tour, was hacked 7 times in 3 weeks, or 2 weeks. And a week ago Friday, we were hacked 5 times from Friday to Thursday on our website. So if you have some problems getting to our website, we've had to rebuild it, put out a lot of money, but it's back up and running. Yeah.
Your intelligence resources say who cleaned out the operating Springfield, Massachusetts, all their A4s, M4s, rifles, and that sort of thing?
We do not know, but we suspect it's coming from the Massachusetts area. It's probably jihadis. They already do have, I can tell you this because we've talked about it on the air with guests that we've had on the show. One of the guests who I can't divulge on the show, who I can personally vouch for, was actually involved with a mission to bring in arms into warehouses in Southern California for exactly this reason. They have arms caches around.
What about that California senator that's dealing arms?
California, Leland Yee?
Yeah, that's down from the top.
Leland. He's in trouble. He's in jail. He got convicted. He copped to it. That's what he did. Yeah. You can go to the website, agenda21radio.com, or go to YouTube. There's a Paul Preston Agenda 21 Radio YouTube channel, and you can go to it that way. If you're having problems, and you might still be having problems getting into the website. But, we're down, but we're not out. And we're really not out here. What? Oh, because they don't like me. The people at Google hate my guts. And that's okay. Because of a guy by the name of Scott Bennett. Joe? Oh, she wanted to know how come they want to shut me down. Well, it might be because of Scott Bennett. Now, when you get to our website, as I know you're going to, somewhere, one way or another. All right. You're going to see an article. Sure you are. Here I'm having a technical problem again when I had it all set up. You're going to see an article featuring on the front page Scott Bennett. We just put this article up. Let me read the title to you. Exclusive story from Scott Bennett to Agenda 21 Radio. French intelligence were given information about ISIS terrorist financing and refused to do anything about it. Oh, by the way, when you go to the article, there's a YouTube. And in the YouTube, it's Scott Bennett, who, by the way, never get on a Skype call with Scott Bennett. because he always records who he's talking to. This is a man. I tried to call him today in Washington, D.C. And when you see the picture, you can see his picture, and you can see Scott's in the corner in the Skype fashion. And what happened is that he happens to be a French member of the policing agency there, and he's an attaché to the French embassy. He's in charge of security for the American embassy, and he was being given exclusive information in March. By the way, this is a fascinating interview. You want to know how spies work? And listen to two spies talk to one another? It's like, oh yeah. It's amazing. Now, to justify some of this story, a plan is coming together. That's right. And when you, listen, I don't want to appear angry. I think of the president today and then this. But when you realize what Scott says, especially at the end of the article, or his YouTube, you'll be furious. Bradley Birkenfeld. Birkenfeld was the other guy that Scott was jailed with. Cheryl Atkinson, and her new show called Full Measure, just the other day, interviewed Bradley Birkenfeld, which verifies everything I'm telling you. The president knew, and in fact encouraged, signed all the documents to finance ISIS. And Hillary Rodham Clinton, oh yeah, she's deeply involved. It was her war. Right here. They're done. They're done. This is good news. Now, Thomas, that interview you can listen to too for Birkenfeld.
We talked about ISIS being created by the U.S.
Correct.
Today I finally heard that on Michael Savage.
Yeah, I got a story to tell you, or I could tell you about Steve Ducey. But I'm so angry because I think of all the lives that have been lost over the last 4 or 5 years, and the complicity of Fox News and others in perpetuating this false narrative. The narrative is thick. It's completely a lie. And we know it. Because we're the newsstream media, we know more than the mainstream media. Because you have reporters that are lazy and do not do their work. And they do not stand up because they're afraid to get fired for telling the truth. They're not Cheryl Atkinsons. That's right. But I'm not going to talk about Steve Ducey right now. Is the camera running?
Yes. Yes.
One little side note about Chris Peranto speaking in Reading. I was actually going to go to Reading and be there with him. From 13 Hours in Benghazi, the movie, it's coming out. He's going to be at the next Liberty Tour. There's another big bombshell coming about Hillary and about, what's his name? Her Friend. What's his name? Sid Vicious. Sidney Blumenthal. And it'll put everything into perspective about what happened 17 February on News to Front and all that stuff. And oh yeah, she's lying. And just a few miles from here lies Christopher Stevens in a grave because of them. Because of Hillary Clinton. And that's going to become very evident. But, you know, look, I got to save the best for last. I really do. And that's Jerry Brown. How many of you love Jerry Brown? Raise your hand.
Bye-bye, Jerry.
Well, there's Jason over there. No, I said Jerry Brown, Jason.
Oh, I thought you said Charlie Brown.
No. Okay, the best for last is this. Go to our website, or go to the Shasta Lantern, or go to Breitbart. And soon to be probably in the New York Post, And I think that, well, certainly the LA Times starts scouring because there's going to be more about Jerry. I'll tell you one little thing. It's kind of interesting. Jerry sold off part of his ranch that he has for $10 million. But did you know that who he sold it to did not know he sold it to them? I'm going to walk over here by somebody who works for the district attorney on this one. It's Colusa County, not Butte. You might want to get the word out to Colusa County. I just sort of, point that direction, go west, young man. But the guy who supposedly paid the $10 million, has no idea he paid the $10 million because he didn't pay it. No, he still has the $10 million. Actually, the company, you read the article, the company was laughing on the phone with Red Smith like, we don't have $10 million. And it's a company in Murrieta. They bought the topsoil of the land, of the ranch. $10 million worth. Diatomaceous earth, anyone, or something like that? So that's it, but listen. Tomorrow's article that we'll put up, and we'll talk about, $10 million, chunk change. Chunk change to what's going on here. Thomas?
What's going on?
Oh, well, the fracking thing, yeah. There's a whistleblower. You know about Jerry Brown's problems, right? I don't think you were at the last meeting. There's a lady who works for the California State Geological Survey or something like that. And she got angry at Jerry Brown because he was ordering her to do certain reports that she knew to be illegal and in conflict with his role as a governor or state employee. So she filed a whistleblower on him. Hello, it's illegal what he's doing. AP picks up the story. Red Smith picks up the story. I pick up the story. And lo and behold, Chris Street at Breitbart picks up the story. And all of a sudden, the nation is looking into this stuff. So in the series of stories that you see, we kind of unravel the onion, including he had no reason to even go in and have this study done and utilize state resources to do it illegally. Because there's already known maps, which I found, that shows that on his property specifically, there's a huge pool of frackable oil available. And you need something there. You can't frack unless you got water. So he denies, we just did these reports and anybody can do it. It's no big deal, and I'm Jerry Brown, and there you go. So, not to be outdone, we started making some phone calls. Red did a lot of, don't shoot me, I'm getting a little paranoid over here. Red Smith starts making some phone calls. And sure enough, he gets a hold of the driller who actually drilled the 9 wells. So I pick up the phone and start making some calls. Red's right. The driller did say that. Listen, the people I talked to were very out in front. Yeah, I did this for the governor. I was kind of wondering what was going on, but we did this. But it just, thank you. That's all I needed to hear. Yeah. Oh, through grants. Oh, it gets better because solar panels, you have to drive the pumps, right? So he gets what? How much did he save on solar panels to the state? Yeah. So he's got at least 9 wells drilled. So Red calls the governor's office. The governor's office won't talk to me. They just don't listen to, here's that wacko Agenda 21 guy again. So Red calls and says, okay, explain to me what the governor did. They said, well, he just got some maps. No big deal. There's no wells there and stuff like that. So Red says to the guy, I just got off the phone with the driller who said he drilled 9 wells on Jerry Brown's land. To which the guy could actually say to himself, or hear himself go, holy shit. Yep. So, that night, Jerry Brown's people called Breitbart. Because Breitbart had just run an article about it. And they try and strong-arm Breitbart News.
Wow.
So I get a call from one of them. And they were just kind of laughing. And they said to me, you know, Jerry Brown, who do these guys think Breitbart is? Do they think we're MSNBC? I thought, nope, I guess not. So that's the good news about Jerry Brown. And also there's some good news. And I really want to say this for the first time, because I think a friend of mine, Dr. Daryl Hamamoto at UC Davis, he's fighting the fight. He came out. He was supposed to be our featured speaker. I'll tell you the story. He was supposed to be our featured speaker at the Liberty Tour. And he was going to talk to us about electrochemical mind control, what they're doing to the students, which would have tailed off on how do we get shooters to go kill people in classrooms. It's all mind control and manipulation. And he was going to give us this talk about that. However, Daryl is because he's at UC Davis, and oh, by the way, he knows about the chemtrails. He takes his students out. He has lecture halls filled with 200 students at a time. And when he sees the chemtrails, he takes them outside and they look up in the sky. And they learn about it. Are you hooking me, buddy? Anyway, so he told me he couldn't make it because he was being threatened and intimidated by the UC system. They're coming at, well, this is where the communists really are. Right. So, prayers for him. But other than that, what he did Thursday night, he went on Alex Jones and blew the whistle. And if you go to either Alex Jones' channel or Agenda 21 Radio, we have the whole article there. So there are good things happening, and there are patriots that are standing up in a big way. We all are taking the risk. Now that I've told you this, you have to tell other people. Sort of make you swear an oath to that. Any other questions though before we go? Which one? Daryl? The Daryl Hamamoto was Thursday. The one we did today, yes, that was the one that we already published. The reason why I was late is I was finishing the article for the publication. Yes, sir.
I read a story about that kid in the Colorado theater that had an air. They played mind games on him.
Yes, they did. Absolutely. It's all done through psychotropics, Wi-Fi, all that stuff. Yeah.
I just wanted the comment that in Paris, during the bombings and everything, the American embassy was turning away Americans.
In Paris?
Yes. They wouldn't let Americans come into the American embassy.
Yeah, that fits everything they do. Obama gets up today and pontificates about, these people are saying we don't even let Christians in and all that. Well, remember what I say about Obama. He's a psychopathic liar. If you listen to him, believe the opposite is true. So he gets out there and says that. Well, that's a lie. And the truth is, they're not letting Christians into America. That's a reality. He's not trying to save Christians. He's allowing them to be beheaded and all that stuff. He's not trying to do anything to protect us. He has broken his oath. Now, it's going to be interesting to see how this article in the New York Times or the New York Post plays out about a resignation. But it appeared, I was listening on Sirius, and not Greta, but Gretchen had him on today and talked about it. That was big. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
I was reading a story today when I was on the computer about the Nigerian president, and he's mad as heck because Obama's been financing Boko Haram in Nigeria.
Correct. Well, yeah, Boko Haram is still Al-Qaeda.
His cousin, Uday Kuse, or something like that, is involved in that.
No, Malik Obama.
Obama's cousin, yeah.
Well, yeah, they're cousins and so on, but Malik Obama, which is his half-brother, is the guy who's funding and got all this special dispensation for a 501c3 from Lois Lerner. His 501c3 was approved in like 3 or 4 days, and she signed off on it on a Sunday. And that's all the money that they've been getting out of all the governmental agencies and funneling it into terrorism. Yeah. It's all related. Well, yeah. Well, let me tell you this. Now, I'll end it on a good note. You have 2 members of the House of Representatives around here, Garamendi and Lamalfa. You know what? As far as I'm concerned, they're traitors and treasonous right now. They have crossed the line because they do nothing and say nothing about what's going on here. Oh, it's going to be all right. Yeah. Well, listen, guys, when they come to kill you, it's probably not going to feel good. And that's what they're banking on, is that kind of behavior from our elected officials. They need to do something and make a statement. And there's only a few of them doing it. Complacent, lazy. I've got my elected office, so on. Okay, are we done? One more question? Okay, thank you very much. Listen to Agenda 21 Radio.